Hello, everyone. Andy here from the Residents of Evil. Hope you're all doing well. We've got a couple of special guests here. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us HBO Episode 1. But before we jump into that, let's introduce our fantastic roundtable guests here. So, starting off, Igor's Lair. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Always excited to talk about zombies.
Indeed. And last but not least, Holster, how are you doing?
Doing awesome. Thanks, Andy.
Initially, what do we think of Last of Us HBO?
It's on in my house, but no, legit. I got a banner hanging up. I've been waiting for this moment. Like, I love it. I'm so ready for more. I'm ready for it to be the next Walking Dead. It's going to be on every tongue, every cheek. It's going to be talked about by everybody, and it's one of those things that as gamers we can say, "I told you so," you know.
And yourself, Holster?
Yeah, I think awesome so far. And like Igor said, it's we've waited a long time for this. I'm so glad we finally got the TV show adaptation to this, and I think it will definitely. I think it will surpass The Walking Dead. I think so far, awesome.
It did have, from HBO's point of view, obviously I'm in the UK. It was on Sky Atlantic here in the UK, but in the US it was on HBO, and I think the ratings was something like it's its highest viewed series in the last like 15 years or so. So yeah, they really did a good job marketing it. They, in my opinion, they've laid everything out perfectly. I feel like for the longest time we've almost been. And it's funny that we're here because 6 months ago, video game adaptations were completely all over the place. But I feel like we've been gaslit into really believing that it's not possible to produce an effective TV or movie adaptations outside of animation, a TV and video adaptation of video games. What are your initial thoughts on that before The Last of Us dropped? If we start with Holster, what was your initial thoughts on that? Were you a big believer in, yes, it's going to come, they just haven't cracked the code, or did you really believe, oh, actually, yeah, it's not going to be possible? You know
what? Like, since it was announced, I had a real good feeling about it. I genuinely just thought that it'll be in good hands. I just had a real, I thought it'd be fine. I didn't have any kind of worries about it. I thought, just keep the faith. I think it's fine. I don't know. I just don't know if it's like you say. We'll get to it soon, like you said. But I think it's kind of like just differences between The Last of Us and Resident Evil series. You know, like for example, why they're trying to struggling to crack that, aren't they? In some aspects of like Resident Evil, for example. But they've done awesome with this. And like I say, I think over time, I think the general kind of game community, including myself, I was starting to kind of lose the faith a little. But like I say, once it was announced, I thought, they know this is a real loved franchise, so they've got to take care with this project, and I think they have. See,
I must admit, I'm in agreement, but I've been so hurt by Resident Evil.
Yeah, trust issues, absolute trust issues all round.
Oh, big trust issues. I think for me, and we'll get onto yourself, Igor, in just a second, but I think for me, because of who was involved with it, you had Craig Mazin, who did a fantastic job on Chernobyl. So I was like, oh, okay, we're going to be in safe hands. But I actually think that the key decider of why I think it's so good is Druckmann was on the set most days. Now, you can say what you want about Mr. Druckmann, especially when it comes to Last of Us 2. I wasn't a fan of Last of Us 2. But he did create Last of Us 1. So I think we do forget that. So he's not going to want his baby completely tarnished. So I think that was a big reason why Last of Us transitioned so well to TV. It appeared to have quite a lot of creative control. I didn't feel any. I don't think they threw anything in there like they did with, for example, Welcome to Raccoon City, or with the Netflix series, which I thought, actually, why are they doing that? Like Wesker wouldn't do that, or any of the other characters wouldn't do that. What are your thoughts, Eagle?
So they've already printed a blueprint for like an epic story, like. It's all there. And we've been saying this about Resident Evil forever. It's all there. And I know that they're not going to showcase like, Pedro Pascal, he said on Twitter, nobody in their 50s is going to be squatting and crawling around that much unless they have massive quads. I think that's what his tweet said. And like, they're not going to show us crafting a whole lot of med kits, from his point of view, or they're not going to show them mixing up. Like, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be him collecting junk to fix his guns or whatever, to modify his weaponry. There may be a little bit of a throw to it, but it's not going to be constant, like, routine maintenance for the game. It's there because it's part of the challenge as the gamer, but how they tell the story is the show's job, right? And as a Resident Evil fan, they put, I don't know how they've lost scope of, like, of course we're not going to have like all these puzzles and stuff. There might be a couple, but like the blueprint's here. And episode 1, it's already did more than the majority of the Resident Evil fan service has done for us, in my opinion. I mean, Welcome to Raccoon City was pretty good, but this is like almost 1-to-1. I'm stoked.
Almost identical. Yeah.
And we do have to play devil's advocate though, because, and I saw this comment so many times, and what I mean by that is Last of Us an easier piece of media to transition to a movie or a TV show because of how it is? Like, it does play like an interactive movie. So is that another key indicator or a key decider on how they crack the code, I would suggest, and say how Resident Evil did? Or have we just not had a competent person do something with the Resident Evil media?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of meat and potatoes in the conversation department on Last of Us, where a lot of the conversations that take place in Resident Evil franchises is, task at hand. I'm done. Here we go. Let's do another task, right? There's not a whole lot of conversations that take place. The remakes are a little different, but yeah.
And yourself, Holster?
Yeah, I think so. It's I know it just I'm not sure. I've read over and over again on Twitter, where people are like, "How is Resi not doing this?" And like I say, I think the general gist, I can't really point my finger on what they're getting wrong or what they're just not nailing. But I think, like I said, the general idea of it is that they're sticking to the source material with The Last of Us out there. And I think, I don't know if they're struggling to translate some backstory on Resident Evil. I'm not sure. I've not actually seen the Paul Anderson movies, admittedly, not for years. Like, it's been a while. Like, I have watched them all, but not revisited them. However, I did actually love Welcome to Raccoon City, but it's definitely nothing like The Last of Us. There's a lot of flaws with it. I know it's very cheesy, that they did it dirty in so many ways, but still, I feel like I had to settle for that. I was like, well, it's better, in my opinion. I think it's better than the Paul Anderson movie. It's better than Netflix series. I feel like I was kind of like, well, I liked it. I love the settings and stuff, and I feel like they did bring them alive, the Spencer Mansion, the RPD, Raccoon City. And I feel like I've got to settle for that. I think, is that the best we're going to get?
Well, exactly that. And I'm at a point now, especially, and I appreciate we're talking about Last First, but with Resident Evil, I really feel like they have got to bring on an established horror director to like a James Wan or a John Carpenter, someone like that, that's really gonna, with a good budget, that's gonna take Resident Evil to the next level. If they don't do that, it's just gonna be wasted opportunity. But if we go back to what Igor said about this being 1-to-1, that is another thing I could suggest that is the reason why they cracked the code, is because they didn't really stray too far from the source material. And I did see the comments online, oh, it's too like the games. But you could also suggest, maybe this isn't necessarily for people that are familiar with the games. Like my dad watched it, and he's never played The Last of Us, and he caught up with it. He understood what was going on. So yeah, maybe that's the reason,
Yeah.
My mum isn't a gamer, but that prompted her to watch The Last of Us. I was like, you need to watch it. It's based on a game, but you'll love it. And yeah, I rewatched it with her, and she, like I say, she was absolutely on board with it. She understood it, and yeah, I don't know if it's maybe difficult to translate to, maybe we know what was going on, like with like Welcome to Raccoon City. Like, it's kind of easy for kind of us to just jump in and watch it, whereas for people who've not played the games, it's kind of have them to understand what's going on, who's this scientist, what caused it. But with The Last of Us, that intro was real good. I didn't actually realise that was a part of it, because I'd recorded it and I was fast forwarding on, and the whole interview part at the beginning where they're discussing about the whole potential of fungus. I thought it was just part of some adverts, and I went past it, and I was like, this is actually part of the thing, and I was like, what is this? But I think it's such a good like intro, like you say, to kind of summarize what potentially, like say, caused this, what we're about to see.
My wife said it gave credibility to the entire episode, just showing that at the beginning. It made you afraid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it did kind of draw parallels to like IRL, you know, and I appreciate that. I appreciate,
absolutely.
you know, sometimes political grandstanding can be a bit much, but with this, where it was kind of backed by science and that sort of thing, where it's like, oh, you know, if the temperature raises, what's going to happen? It was I almost like watched this and I was like, I actually feel really uncomfortable.
I felt uncomfortable. It's that moment when he said, and what happens? He's like, we lose. I was like, oh, like it's that feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, humanity always wins, but now we don't. Like what?
We lose. That was crazy. That was a crazy.
But what made this more beautiful for me is they didn't rely on the games for this. This was HBO or Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann expanding on the existing law, but taking liberties, but not to the point they're ruining it. And they're doing. I'm not sitting here and going, the fungus infection would never do that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, but that's what I mean. It's such a stark comparison when you compare it to, say, Resident Evil Netflix, where you're just you are sitting there and you're like, Raccoon City gas leak. Well, we know it wasn't a gas leak because at the end of RE3 they said, oh yeah, it was a nuclear bomb, and you know, thoughts go out to the millions. So it wasn't a gas leak. So thanks for the retcon, I guess.
Them starting that off with the interview reminded me of Dawn of the Dead, the 78 version, when they had the interviewer and the scientist talking about how to dispose of zombies. And them, you know, just talking about it on the air, but them predating it into the 60s, I thought was cool. You know, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a love letter to that era, but that's what it felt like to me. It was, and knowing that HBO has this baby in their hands and they're going to nurture it is the best feeling ever. Like, while The Walking Dead was amazing, not all of it was. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of episodes where they jumped the shark. This feels like it's going to just stay true to the narrative and be great.
It was a long episode, though.
Yeah.
It was a very long episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at
end.
Yeah, no, neither did I. I was like, when are they going to finish it? Like, when they meet Ellie a little bit further. But I think how they did end it was absolutely perfect. What I did like, there was a couple of things in this which now I've watched it, like now I'm going through it a second time now and seeing comments online. I missed the first time and I was like, wow, like they really thought of everything with this. Like, for example, there's a scene where Joel grabs he goes to touch his watch, but he's not wearing his watch because obviously it's getting, just shit like that really pops me.
Yeah.
And how everybody actually got infected, which is what I thought was really cool. It was through like the flour or food. And if you remember, at the start of the episode, Joel doesn't eat the pancakes and his daughter doesn't eat the cookies, which is how everybody else got infected.
I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. Oh my God.
I didn't piece that together, actually.
I didn't. I've been asking questions since the first episode aired. How did this happen? I don't know how they got sick. How did it? Okay. You just blew my mind.
Let me just, evidence flour caused the outbreak in lot. Let me just see if I can pull this up on screen here. 2 seconds.
While you're doing that, let me tell you something wild. There's a local man who makes cordyceps here, and I'm going to try to interview him. He makes it, and it's like a supplement, like a vitamin. Like it does more for your body than caffeine ever could. And I'm like, in my town, am I going to be like patient zero? I met this guy at the park, and he's like an entrepreneur with he owns like a nightclub, a daycare, and now he grows cordyceps. I'm like, dude, this is like perfect spread. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
That's all good. It's right here, actually. Fungal virus actually spread through one of the most commonly used baking ingredients, flour. Although this is different from the Outbreaks game origin, several moments in the HBO series actually hint that this could be true. Where is it? So they were talking about in the series about there being a big flour mill as well. So again, these are all things that intrinsically link it to the fact that he turned down the pancakes and she turned down the cookies when she went over to the neighbors.
And you didn't get a birthday cake.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my god, I completely forgot
my
about
god. I forgot about the birthday cake.
Yes, there you go. Oh my god, that's just blown my mind. I completely forgot about.
Happy birthday, Joel.
That couldn't be up to a coincidence.
No,
that has to be how it was spread. But yeah, there was a couple of those sorts of things. All of this world building they did before because I mean, when you played the games, you know, you wake up as Sarah and you know she dies. You go through the town and she dies. Whereas this is like loads of world building, loads of character behind Sarah, and then when she does die, I was still upset. I was like, I know this is coming.
Yeah. I really was, and my mum was in total shock. So I didn't say a thing to her. Obviously, I was just staring. I wasn't like, "Oh my god, this." I didn't say anything. I was just staring at the TV, and I just waited for a reaction. She's like, "Oh no!" She's like, "Don't you dare say she died. How can she? How though? How can they kill her?" And I was like, "It happens." It's absolutely in shock. And because like I said, they wanted to bring in like a bit of kind of like that family life, didn't they? Like the daily routine and stuff to show the like them having breakfast, which was now I've just seen, like now I've just realised, you know, entirely relevant. The breakfast options, and then obviously here at school, real nice scene with repairing the watch and stuff. So it's it was real cool, and I think she definitely had an important part to play. For people who didn't know what was going to happen, for that shock factor, to build that relationship with her and Joel. To generate that massive shock.
The loss was hard still about that. They're just so, like, and I've been thinking about it, going back to Resident Evil, there's a lot of like lore spread throughout The Last of Us through notes scribbled, and it's more believable now that they've dated The Last of Us back to 2003 when the outbreak happened, because technology being neutered, for lack of a better word, to Nokia phones were like present everywhere in the episode. Like notes would be more believable. But you go look at Resident Evil, there's tons of lore throughout, all kinds of things scribbled down. And maybe they could take that approach to fill in the gaps with the Resident Evil network, I don't know. Like not the network, but the universe, if they were to build a cinematic one,
Yeah, I agree. They could do. So I mean, what I really liked about like Raccoon City, for example, is the amount of Easter eggs in there. Like you say, if they could kind of pack more in there, like you said, with the notes and things.
Yeah.
I think.
What was it, Wesker? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say. I think I never felt when I was watching Last of Us that there were scenes in it that were filler. I felt like even though it was an hour and 20 minutes long, which is stupidly long for a TV series, it's a movie in itself. Stranger Things has completely changed the narrative on how we experience TV episodes. I felt every scene was meaningful. Every scene made sense. They even after the initial scene where you had the little boy that walked into the little settlement there, and they found out he was infected, and they put him to sleep, they unalived him. Like I thought that was all. It again starts to explain how humanity has dealt with the virus, and then you had Joel afterwards carry the child into the fire pit, and even that made sense because obviously he's been so desensitized because of his daughter's death. It ain't a big deal to him to watch a child. But all of this again, not in the game, which have completely built from the ground up for the series.
Yeah, like I say, it's relevant, isn't it? They're like real good, like welcome additions, I think.
Something I've just remembered as well, something that was big in like the online community and conversations was whether it's Craig Mazin or Neil Druckmann's official position was they didn't want the cast to play the games, which actually has turned out not to be a bad thing because I think Pedro Pascal, his role as Joel was absolutely superb.
Yeah, I played the game in Celebration on stream on Facebook just to be like, it's happening. It actually happened. And I was struggling. I was so bizarre. I was struggling to look at the video game Joel without thinking of Pedro Pascal. And I'm like, what? Has it 90 minutes? Is that all it took to get replaced in my brain? You know what I mean? I so happy with that. He did. He nailed it. He absolutely nailed it.
I'd love to see him on an interview, actually, like after all this is said and done, what his inspirations behind the character, because he must have some, you know, ideas that he felt he needed to bring to the table, and what his interpretation of. I'd actually love to have him and Troy Baker next to each other as they discuss both their interpretations of Joel, and what each of them, what media they relied on, or what they thought, how they wanted to portray that sort of thing. Actually, Troy Baker's going to be in this at some point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
it's like a cameo.
Nice.
He's going to be in the colony of people that eat human flesh.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. I wonder if his accent's going to be like Joel, if he's going to perfectly sound like Joel or whatever.
It does blow my mind how, like you said, they made sure that they didn't play the games, and they just nailed it, though. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. I did kind of think, like, why wouldn't you let them play the games, you know? But it's worked. As long as it works, it's fine.
There was a degree of, when it was that, you know, the most impactful scene of that whole episode with Sarah dying, or unaliving, excuse me. There was a degree of, like, something which I didn't feel was portrayed in the original Joel, was this degree of helplessness which Pedro Pascal really conveyed, where he was like turning to his brother. He's like, Tommy, help me, please. I don't remember. Yeah. Now, it's been a while since I played Last of Us. I'm going to be going live afterwards, after this stream and playing it. I don't remember Joel saying that in the original. I thought it was just, you know, I know, baby, I know. And, you know, he comforted her until she passed away.
Yeah.
I think there was a look, but I don't think there was a help me. I think it was just a look.
Mm. And that, like, I when I was watching it, it just sent shivers down my spine. I was like, wow, like, this is really like a dude losing his daughter. He's like, and his brother's just standing there like, I don't know what to do. Like, we are where we are type thing.
And you think about the world that he's in after losing his daughter. My wife and I were talking about these establishments that they have set up to where you can go in and smash things. Like when you're mad, you lose your job, your ex breaks up with you, whatever. You can go pay this place so many dollars an hour and you can smash things and feel better about it. The entire universe is that. And he just gets to go whatever, do whatever. And the thing is like, I know there's a lot of people that aren't fans of The Last of Us 2. It's my favorite video game of all time. Because of the divisiveness in it, it did something that not many things can do. But anyway, I wonder how they're going to depict Joel in this. If it's going to be like, you know, they hinted at how ruthless he was in the game. Tommy was talking about it at the dam. He's like, he said, we survived, baby brother. He said, I don't know if we call that surviving, Joel. You know, that's one of the things that he said. And there's little breadcrumbs throughout the game where he talks about the hunter camps, like where what's his name? Hank Williams, whenever that's playing in the truck and he wrecks into that guy and he's like, that guy ain't even hurt. You know, he did all that before. And I'm wondering if they're going to reference any of his past or if it's just going to be like, we're going to just see him as Daddy Joel the whole time, you know?
Yeah. It's
and how long they're going to long out the whole, I don't know how long they're going to long out the whole, you know, Ellie and Joel done. Like, because I felt like when you was playing the game, it was a lot later, like really a lot later in the game where you started getting the whole like pseudo father and daughter relationship. So I'd be very interested. Are they just going to jump straight into it? Or is there going to be like a series of things that they have to do? Like series of trust tasks, if you could call them that. Because I didn't get that vibe. I haven't got that vibe at the end of that episode where they both met up. What was actually your thoughts on Bella Ramsey as Ellie?
For me,
yeah. Either or.
So she hasn't had a chance to prove herself to me yet because they've just had her as like a naive kid right now. I've not seen anything that I'm like, wow, you know, because you look at the big leagues that she's on scene with, and the original mocap actress for her name escaped me. Oh my God, what's her name? Fireflies person.
Molly.
Yeah, Marlene. Like the fact that she got that role was nice, but all these people that were the big league actors, you know, carried the first episode, in my opinion. I think that she was fantastic in Game of Thrones, and she had very, very good poise. And what was Lady Mormont? That was right. Like I thought she was great for that and whatnot. But I haven't seen anything yet that's just like amazing. But I'm open minded. I mean, I trust HBO so much with this that they've picked her for a reason. You know, like I feel like networks have these pool of actors and actresses that they'll reference from and make brilliant stuff. You know, you see that with Netflix a lot with certain people, and this is no different. They just picked HBO big leagues and they're putting on a freaking show with it.
Yeah, I think she's nailed it so far. I think she's nailed Ellie's sass down.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, like you just get it within the first seconds, just the first dialogue in it. She counts to 8, F you. That's it. Whoa, there we go. She doesn't care anything, you know. I think she nails it, to be honest. And yeah, that first scene, you know, in the hallway, you know, with Joel stamping on a flick knife and all that. You know, you can just say, you just see like, I thought, oh, they just really dislike each other, and I think who says it? I think it's Tess who says it in the TV show, because when I played the game, I made a comment on that, because I think Joel says she's just cargo, and then I think again Tess, I think it's Tess who says it in the TV show, said she's just cargo, and it's interesting how obviously in the game she goes from being just cargo to, like you said, that pseudo father and daughter relationship. So it'd be interesting to see them like develop that bond. You know, I think it's going to take time though, because I thought in that hallway, I thought they hate each other. Like he's really not interested. He just wants to get her there to, you know, be sorting out supplies, the vehicle, get going, you know. So she's just cargo at the moment.
But there is something. There is something about Joel, because right at the end, when he this took me by absolute surprise. I didn't realise it was quite going to go down like that, where he just absolutely mauls that guy. And bear in mind, he knew that guard. And he still, despite knowing that Ellie was infected, still just absolutely just beat him to death. So I don't quite. I take what you're saying on board about, you know, he doesn't really care right now, but there must be something
that's some element
that's digging at him, that he's like, do you know what, I needed to do that.
Yeah,
my favorite performance from Ellie in the episode was that scene watching Joel beat the crap out of that guy, because she loved it. Nobody in her life had ever done that for her, ever. And it was shown just through a glance. Like, he beat the shit out of that guy. And she was like, yeah, that's my dad. You know what I mean? So it was really, that was a cool way to end the scene.
Yeah, I think here you go.
Yes.
Look at her. Yeah. It's like me finding out the Discovery Channel exists for the first time, and there's like hyenas and lions fighting on there, you know?
Yeah, no, it was a really visceral scene, actually. They did make this clear that they didn't want the entire episode to just be blood and gore. They wanted to reserve it for special moments, and the two moments were obviously Sarah's death and the death of that guard. So they really limited it, but when they did do gore, it was really visceral.
Yeah. Now episode 2, lots of clicker rumor. I mean, not rumors. It's obvious. The two iconic buildings leaning into each other. We know what takes place there. We see a bunch of clickers, so I'm all for that. Like, I'm so excited that I've been looking up clicker busts to go with my liquor bust. Like, I want to get a clicker in my house.
Yeah, the thought of a liquor, like, I'm sure back in the day when Resident Evil 2 came out, if I was like, oh, imagine if that was real life. Do you know what? If The Last of Us was real life, it'd be one of them moments like, whenever a nuclear bomb drops, you hope that you're right under it when it drops, rather than so far away that you actually just get completely irradiated. That's one of them moments. I just hope I just perish in like the first hour of the outbreak. I don't want to go through what Joel and Ellie are going through, because that world is terrifying with clickers.
Yeah,
definitely. I don't envy them at all. It's not pleasant, is it?
But the big difference between, for example, a zombie and this fungal virus is people are still alive. They're not undead like they are in Resident. They're not dead coming back to life. They are still alive. They're just controlled. And I think that's a really fascinating dynamic, because in theory, the person is still a person. So it makes sense how they can get away with doing a cure. It doesn't really make sense in RE to have a cure, because like in the early stages, but
it's
after
already dead sort of thing. Yeah.
I was reading that the cordyceps, when they affect their hosts, like ants or grasshoppers or whatever, that they send, it's like hallucinogenic pheromones or something into the wherever to make them just trip out the entire time. That's like terrifying to me. Like you're like the best high of your life, but your body's like killing everything in sight, you know? Like I'm a clean slate. I don't do anything, but just the entire prospect of that is just scary.
Yeah, it's like your mind to be like manipulated sort of thing, in it to feel these things and stuff. Yeah.
Agreed.
The only thing that would make it peaceful is David Attenborough narrating it.
Here we have.
Yeah, he would sell it. He would make it to sound peaceful.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary or potentially scary, things that they changed from the original Last of Us source material. So the ones that come to my head is the transmission of the fungus, which the fungal infection, which to me makes a lot more sense, because they're trying to control the world, and it doesn't make sense if it's just like an airborne disease, because in theory everyone could get it. Which also means they did away with the gas masks, which was a real point of contention. I mean, if all we're doing, to be honest, I'm going to say it now, if all we're doing is criticising the fact there's not masks in it, I think we're off to a really good start with this series.
Yeah.
But what was your thoughts, if we start with you, Igor, what was your thoughts of them omitting the masks and making the fungal infection transmittable, it looks like, through the mouth instead?
Yeah, I'm okay with no mask, because like I don't want it to sound like everybody in the game or in the show to sound like Kenny from South Park. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what the entire episode would have been, just muffled conversations. It's hard to depict anything from behind goggles, right? Like, and I made a meme about from Ace Ventura when he's got the asparagus in his teeth, because they transmit it, you know, through the bites, and everybody that came to my stream was talking about that scene when the old lady got up and was like dangling it looked like hair. Everybody thought she was eating the hair of the person that got bit, and it was weird, but it was the way that they showed it is way scarier than just inhaling spores and coughing like it's a joint from like Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson, you know, like coughing. Yeah, right there. Look at that. That's terrifying.
She actually looks like Anthony Hopkins in this scene.
yeah. I mean, there's a Farmer Beans quote in there somewhere, but yeah, it's terrifying. Look at that.
And again, none of this was in the game. If I remember in the game, it was just some dude banging on the door, or the rear door, and Joel comes in and kills him.
Yeah,
I think he just like smashes through the like back door or something. Yeah, the glass.
Yeah. What is it? The same last name as the neighbors in the game? I don't remember that.
I don't think so. I think it was a male who came in, in the game, and then obviously it's an elderly couple.
Yeah, I'm glad that they went with the old lady instead. Like that's, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I want to be a scary old person when I get old. Like that's goals, you know. But that, you know, her sprinting out of the house like a cheetah was
that's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But again, it's even like the scene. I'm just watching it back here. The bookcase scene where she's all like in the corner, like,
oh god,
that's so vulnerable. Yeah, in there, like not hardly moving or anything, and like, you know, being relied to be fed and everything, and then all of a sudden, you know, she has got this abundance of energy, hasn't she? Once she turns, she's able to run after her, chase her out.
Yep, and it stands to reason, like they were talking about on the Discovery Channel with cordyceps giving you whatever you need to be a killing machine. That's scary. She's wheelchair bound, and she gets up and Usain Bolts people down to eat them.
It's believable though, isn't it? Because I thought, I think she's going to chase after it because it manipulates your body, doesn't it? So it's definitely believable. But I think I was probably glad to see the mask go, to be honest, because like you said, I think it would have been maybe a bit detrimental when it comes to like communication and stuff like that, like a bit of muffling, and then maybe in some scenes it might have just taken away maybe the effectiveness. If we need to see the full face, I know obviously, I know obviously you can show it in the eyes or something, but still you'd see people's full face. Now, I thought maybe it might be a bit like fiddly, like, you know, if you're being chased and you've suddenly seen area, they're like, fumbling for the mask, like on and off, and I think maybe we might have got a bit fed up with it during the series. I
think Pedro Pascal was just tired of wearing things on his head.
Yeah, I reckon so. I ain't having
He immediately wrote and was like, "Do I have to wear a mask?" No, he's like, "This is the way."
Sign me up.
Yeah, it did make me laugh, that tweet when he said he didn't want to be on his knees crawling all the time and all that, like you mentioned. Ellie Rigo, I thought that was funny.
It does make sense. You know, we are meant to believe that Joel is 55. He's 20 years older than his previous self. He's not going to be crawling around, and you know, definitely without doing the old MGS4 pat on the back.
Yeah.
But something, again, as I'm watching it back, something they did really well was the Jeep scene. That was very similar to the games, and there was a section here where the other neighbours ran over to help, and Joel's like, "No, we can't save him. We can't save him." Like, he made a good decision, and then he made another good decision. Like, these are. Everything just made sense. It was so weird how effortless it appeared to be.
Yeah. I just want to say, did you see it when, as they was driving away, because he said, I think it was Denise, he said, "Denise, you get in your house, you lock the door now," and whatever. So he got in the car, then, as he's driving away, he like scuffs the elderly male neighbour, because obviously he was like infected, so he came out. He was all bloodied up, wasn't he? And then I think he scuffs both him and then the younger one, was it the daughter, maybe, I assume. He scuffs those, and then I think that Denise actually came running over, because did you see it way in the background? And I heard her say "Damn, Joel," or something like that, and then they attacked her. You could see it like from a distance. I thought it was really cool how they continued that.
Yeah, outbreak scenes are always like, for me, they're always the most exciting part. Watching civilization crumble. Like, I don't know, I don't want that. I don't wish that upon anybody. But like, if they depict it right. And somebody in the chat here was talking about the plane crash. It's a literal plane crash. Like, that's something games. Games don't really have to do that shock and awe stuff. But it's just a really good time to be a gamer and to love scary stuff. You know, it really is. I'm so happy.
I was thinking, do you think you might? You know, you're looking for a clicker bust and stuff. Do you think you might get like a test tube and ask? Your mate, so you can get your cordyceps, like a sample, like in a test tube. You can have it like on display.
Maybe. Yeah.
Pretty sick.
Until you break it, like the Callisto Protocol, and now you're infected.
Yeah.
You've got to contain it inside Igor's lair, or else it's going to be you've got to contain it in there.
Yeah. It was just the most random thing. I was like at the park with my children, and this guy's talking to me. "Yeah, man, I grow cordyceps." I'm like, this is terrible.
I'm sickened but curious.
Yeah, in my town, and he's got like he's got a whole plant. He grows all of them, and I'm gonna make content with him one day, but if he'll let me.
Man, I'm surprised the HBO show haven't like picked him up, and you know, some of the scenes are going to be shot in his lab or whatever.
Well, apparently it's like $300 a brick for this stuff. Like when you grind it up, and he's like, "I'm going to grow it locally and sell it for like $8." I'm like, what? It's like this whole thing. Yeah,
you can biological weapon. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like pocket sand, but it's like, oh, I'm a zombie. It's like it's powdery. It's a white powdery substance. I'm like, I don't know. It was such an odd topic to hear in a park. You know.
You know what we need to do, Andy? We need to get a little control drone and send it over there, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, real life cordyceps farm found, exclusive to Rome."
Yeah.
Agreed.
You've literally got the exclusive inside scoop.
Agreed.
That'd be so
In Tennessee,
sick,
man.
Cerebral exclusive.
We like home of Dolly Parton and the cordyceps outbreak. I mean, that's all gonna be.
I was hoping. I was wondering when the new pandemic was going to roll in. It appears that we've discovered it on this stream.
It's like 2 streets down from me too. I'm ready. I'm ready. I've got like makeshift weaponry and snacks.
big backpack full of shivs.
Yeah.
So obviously we've spoken about what's really good about this series, and it's going to be very difficult. But what did we think that the first episode either could have done better or was quite detrimental to The Last of Us?
I need to take a moment to think about that.
Is there anything you think, oh, I wouldn't have done that, or that doesn't make sense?
I'm open-minded. The thing that was complained about the most on the internet was them not like staying true to the, some of the races of certain characters or whatever. But it's like, that's a non-point to me as a consumer of horror media and everything. I want it done right by the right person, right? That's all that matters to me. And if I want normal old Last of Us, I'll play the game. I'm happy to see like Pedro Pascal and another, I don't know the nationality of the person playing Tommy, but they're Latin or whatever. Like, that's cool to me. It's going to be a different, it's an adaptation. That's the word that everybody needs to learn. It's an adaptation of the source material. And that makes the universe bigger to me. Like, we're going to get to see some different aspects of these characters that might not be portrayed through, the game. And so, yeah, bring it on. I know Maria is played by one of the coolest members of True Blood. I forget her name, but she killed it in that show, and she's playing Maria. I can't remember her name. It escapes me. Somebody in chat might know it, but yeah, she killed it on that show. That like I said before about them casting from a pool of HBO, champions, like that's what we're getting here. I'm ready for it.
Agreed. And it depends on how you look at it, because yes, it is an adaptation, but quite literally, when it comes down to people's ethnicity, is it imperative that, for example, if Joel does have a Latin heritage, does it intrinsically change the character? Was there something in Last of Us which meant that he had to be, a white European descent? Is there something intrinsic to that character that it had to be like that? I would suggest probably not. And the same with the daughter. Obviously, they did change the ethnicity of the daughter, but it didn't really feel out of place. It didn't really feel like, because there is nothing inside of Last of Us which I would say it meant that it had to be of white European heritage. So
yeah, not specific to that ethnicity or anything. Yeah, because I think the night after the show came out, I did a bit of a hype stream on YouTube. So I did I kind of did playing through the first episode, but on the game sort of thing. So I booted it up on the PS5, and I did have a comment come through, and I didn't acknowledge it because I just didn't feel the need. Someone said, why in the show is Joel's daughter a different ethnicity sort of thing? And I was like, well, you know what I mean? Like, why does it even matter though? Like, maybe he had a previous either wife or girlfriend of a different ethnicity, or, it's like, I just didn't feel it was, the comment was relevant. Do you know what I mean? So then, that's how I feel, like you said, you both said, there's nothing that absolutely ties a certain, heritage, ethnicity, where it has to be, for particular characters. Like I said, unless there's anything specific, then,
I mean, it's a classic story of guy loses his daughter and befriends another lady who's kind of like his daughter. I mean, that doesn't. Yep. I'm sure that transcends ethnicity, in my opinion. But
yeah, exactly. It's about the relationship more than anything. When you look at that aspect of it, and I'm one of those people that's like. When I watch a slasher movie, I'm kind of pulling for the slasher. I'm not pulling for the zombies here, but like, I think that out of all the zombies they're infected. Out of all the zombies, infected, whatever, shambling, walkers, like this is the most original. Like it's a fresh take on the zombie apocalypse. You know what I mean? It's super fresh. You got cauliflower heads clicking at you like dolphins. Like that's terrifying. We've seen everything in my room is zombie themed. Everything in this room is about zombies. Minus one poster of Freddy versus Jason over there and The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Everything else has zombies in it. And I'm like, every time I post a meme about The Last of Us on my page, there's always this one dude, and it's the same. I think it's the same people who had problems with, them changing the races up on some characters. Like that, people are always looking to critique something. Regardless, there's always the people that look for something they would see as a flaw, and this is going to surprise everybody. By the end of it, the only thing that I'm asking, and I don't know what you guys think about this, is if we get to the end of it and they're staying exactly like they were to the game, is there going to be like, what if we get to season 2 and Joel lives? Like, oh my God.
I'm hoping he does, because I really believe that was the one big letdown with Last of Us Part 2. Mainly because it was through fault, not through fault of their own, because it did get leaked before the game came out, which I thought was so unfortunate, because maybe it would have had a different impact if we all played it and then we saw it, rather than finding out maybe the most shittiest way. It's like, oh, Joel gets killed by this person. It's like, oh man, like now I don't even want to play it. Like there was like 10 years. I remember when Last of Us first came out back in 2013, I was back in college. I was like, man, it's like I could not put that game down. I was like, it's the best game in the world. And then when Last of Us Part 2, I heard ramblings that it was going to be released. I was like, man, here we go. Like, this is going to be the next big game I'm going to play. I'm going to invest my time in. And then when I heard about him dying, I was just like, man, I've got Last of Us 2. I still haven't, I've played like maybe an hour of it and that's it. Wow. I still need to finish. I'm going to spend, I know what's going to happen, but I'm going to spend time doing it. But maybe with this TV show, we talk about, oh yeah, we want it close to the source material. Maybe with the TV show, they can just say, do you know what? Maybe it wasn't the right decision killing Joel off.
Maybe they might learn from that. Yeah. I mean, I know people did like The Last of Us Part 2. I do prefer the first one. Still love Part 2, but it actually took me a while to kind of warm to it, I think. But yeah, still. I do hope they take it in a different direction, to be honest.
Well, the reason that even got brought up in my head with my head movies was the relationship they showed between Tommy and Joel in episode 1. Like he said, because the phone call on his birthday when Sarah was asleep was, hey, I'm in jail. It wasn't my fault this time. I was at the bar and somebody was just going crazy on this lady and I stopped him and they arrested me. Like, and it showed this relationship of him taking care of his baby brother all the time. And in my head, immediately, I'm like, well, what if they play this off where it's like he's doing that all the time and then his baby brother gets taken from him and then he goes after Abby,
Yeah, like, it's interesting, yeah.
But that would imply that Tommy would have to kill Abby's dad. So, yeah, be that as it may, you just can't help but wonder if they're going to change up some things,
I hope they do. And if we could just touch back on that ethnicity, if we compare it to, say, Resident Evil Netflix with Albert Wesker being of a different ethnicity, again, not intrinsically linked to the character, even though that is our picture in our head when we see Wesker, is the slick back hair with the sunglasses. I did think Lance Reddick did a good enough job of portraying Wesker to me. I think what was more offensive about Resident Evil Netflix is its use of Zootopia porn, its use of Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish playing in the...
I honestly, I didn't even, I watched it about 26 minutes and I couldn't continue, but I knew about that scene only thanks to you posting it. And I was like, oh my, how can you excuse that?
I couldn't watch the last episode.
Can't get over that.
I got to the last episode. I couldn't do it. I don't even know what happens. I just was like, I'm done. Emotionally spent.
Like, to me, that is more creatively offensive than, oh, do you know what? We have an actor he's done a great job on John Wick. To me, in my mind, I can see him being Albert Wesker, and there was certain. He was the best, absolutely best part of that series anyway. But there were certain scenes where I was like, man, if you had a different script, like you could really be Albert Wesker. And I even put my bollocks on the block, and I said, Lance Reddick's going to change the game as Albert Wesker, and I really hope that maybe in a weird reality he gets to play Albert Wesker again, and it's more horrific and that sort of thing. But yeah, race isn't intrinsically tied to the character unless there's heritage involved.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's just I'm as a fan of all things zombies, I'm just glad to see this on a big network. I know that The Walking Dead was pitched to HBO and they said no, because Frank Darabont used, if you look at his last movie that he was involved with, was The Mist, Stephen King's The Mist. You look at all the people that was in The Mist that made it to the show, to the Walking Dead show. And then like it was, you know, that Neil Druckmann just came to them or whatever. I don't know how that went about, but they've meshed up, like, get these people, get X or Y people, you know, out of their own pool of people. And like, we got a new episode in what, 6 hours? Oh my God. I'm ready.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely pumped for it. It's going to be.
I can't wait. Is it still like? Is it like 2 a.m.? Sorry, Andy. Is it like 2 a.m. over here again? So I know the first one was.
To be honest, I watched it Monday night because I knew it was going to be stupidly early, and I've got to be up at like 5:30. So I'll probably just watch it.
Yeah, I do have to set an alarm earlier, maybe, and just get up and watch it before work. I think I'm up early tomorrow, so I think I can't. I don't can't be able to wait, because I think I'll be like a bit grumpy at work or something. I was
really shocked I managed to get through Monday without seeing any spoilers, because due to the nature of, like, obviously the platforms I'm on, it can be quite hard to stay off social media. Like, I'm quite literally chronically online. So I was really fortunate in the fact that I dodged all spoilers. And so when I watched it in the evening at dinner, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm really glad. It's not something you want spoiled at all. I mean, even if you know what happens, obviously, the general gist of it, like from the game, but you don't want anything spoiled, like what they've done with it. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job. So, what do you think that episode 2? Now we're starting to round off this round table. What do you think they're going to do in episode 2 now? That's going to be different from the rest.
I think they're going to be more impactful because they've shown numbers in the first episode. Like, they had the infected in the streets doing the really creepy stare, like 28 days later. The stare in the street was just, that was terrifying. I think they're going to have less numbers, but they'll be, they'll showcase like maybe 3 or 4 clickers. I could be wrong. I would love to see an army of clickers, but I think their focal point will be just how terrifying one can be versus the many. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think maybe more a bit more kind of character building maybe in this. Just keep introducing more and more aspects of each kind of character, just, you know, to kind of get to know them more. And like I said, definitely clickers. I think we'll probably get a decent chunk of clickers. I think so. I think obviously the first episode was like an hour and a half, so this one should be, do you think maybe an hour? I'm assuming. So I think we'll get a good chunk of content when it comes to the lickers and how just how like terrifying and impactful they are. Yeah, and like I say, they need to kind of introduce, because we know what they are, obviously, don't we, from the games, but and obviously we're like terrified of them. So yeah, I think they need to introduce just how deadly these things are to obviously people who don't know them. So I think it's kind of a bit of a deal in this episode. I think it's quite a big thing for the clickers.
The episode's called Infected.
Yeah.
Okay, right. That's interesting, because they did they not touch on, and I can't remember if it was in the trailer or episode 1, that there are kind of phases to the infection where it's like, you start off insane, and then as it progresses through you, I guess you die, but you got like all fungus coming out of you. Or just before that, sorry, obviously you turn into a clicker form, and then you die and you're all like molded to the wall and shit. Maybe they'll touch more on how that works. I hope we get another segment. I hope we get another segment from 1968 though. I really hope we do, because that would be so good.
Yeah. That would be good. Yeah, another flashback. Because to be honest, I think we might do, because obviously when he says we lose, then there's that kind of silence, and then he's like, we'll be back after the break. So maybe we might kind of see, a segment from after that interval. Maybe.
Like you're in, like maybe they're all like, oh, you're insane. You don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, oh, it's coming. And
firstly, this happens, and then after so many hours, it takes 24, 40 hours, whatever, to get to this stage, and then they might say like, well, what are the potentials of this? And then they might.
The thing is, it's like, I don't know. They've never really elaborated. See, I've beaten The Last of Us 1 and 2 like 10 times each, or maybe more, and they've never elaborated on what it takes for somebody to melt or merge to the wall. I don't know if it's like lack of purpose, because when they merged to the wall on the games, it was to release spores. That's where the spores came from. And I'm going to be surprised to see what their take is. Like if they go with a route like the Strain, the FX show with their vampire take of the Strain, I don't know what happens to an infected when they merge to the wall. Like, do they sprout tendrils? Like, if you get close to it, will it nick you and infect you? Like, and then the other thing is like that it being titled Infected, it could show how Ellie got bit too. How she got infected.
Yeah, potentially.
Because that's been in the trailers.
Did we see in the original how she got infected?
It was a DLC. Her and Riley.
Yeah.
Left Behind. Yeah, sorry, yeah. And we do see that her get infected.
It's really nice. Now, they did like a photo booth and a carousel and all that stuff. I don't know. I guess all that's still around in 2003. I mean, it's 10 years difference, but I'm really happy with the changes of time though. That made me happy, because I graduated high school in 2005. And I've been a zombie like fanatic since I was 8 years old. So it was like, that was my stomping grounds. I could have made it, Now I'm old and I don't really. I entertain it in my head more than I would in real life,
So now that you've seen, this will kind of be our concluding point here. Now that you've seen. And I think between the three of us, we can say that this was a successful, from what we've seen so far, and I don't think they're going to trek so wildly it's going to be different. This, can we all agree this is a successful adaptation?
Yes.
Yeah, absolute yes from me, yeah.
What does Resident Evil need to do to get to where Last of Us is?
Character building. Like, we know all about these characters because we're fans of the games, the challenge of the games, all the different monsters. But like, for it to make it home to, for an average viewer to just get in their teeth hooked into, like, look at all the successful shows from the past, like Breaking Bad. You got Walter White, or Jon Snow, or any of the House of Dragons, or any of these big shows. They got to have more character fleshed out for TV. And it's going to take that, because like, I think there's enough meat and potatoes behind like Jill Valentine or Chris or any of the OG stars to do that. But they're going to have to slow burn Raccoon City. They're going to have to show before the outbreak. They're going to have to start it off with them doing their daily jobs, and they're in Raccoon City, because the only time we've ever seen Raccoon City is when it's in ruin. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I want to feel the pain of loss when we go to that bar from Outbreak and it gets turned to shit by zombies. Like, I want to feel that loss when all those people in there get turned. It's like Cheers, but they're all zombies in there now. You know what I mean? I want to feel that loss, and they rush straight to the gore and the action and the roundhouse kicks too fast. We need a slow burn.
I don't know what you said. Yeah, what you said, Igor. It's definitely a slow burner because in Resident Evil, like we've got huge personalities with various backgrounds. So definitely just need to slow burn that in, and then just stick close to the source material, I think.
See, what if you had like exactly that? Maybe after it was set, maybe you can make a film on Resident Evil 2 because I really feel like Resident Evil 2 to me probably adapts better to a movie than the first one. What if you had like Brian Irons like cutting up fucking meat in his little underground thing, and it's like, what do you mean the facility's blown up? And it like shows that you think, oh, he's working with him, and where's Wesker, and then you can have like Jill in her apartment with all her serial killer notes on the wall that they had in RE3 remake. Like they could really do something with this. Like, they could have like an interweaving storyline.
I do believe it can be done.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you say, it just really needs to be taken care of, like you said, by a massive like horror like director. It needs to be in good hands.
What was that? Arclay.
Yes,
that was going to be fantastic if they ever that first episode of Arclay. Then that was the pilot, and the rest of it got canceled. I was all in for that. I didn't know who the dude was, and
but that's it. It doesn't necessarily. That's why I think Carrier Raccoon City story is really good because it's not necessarily about all the key characters, but they'll interweave as you could bring in a new character, make him relatable, or make him an ordinary person in an extraordinary situation, and then he meets like Albert Wesker, he meets fucking Brian Irons and Marvin and all that on his path to find out what's going on. But yeah, 100%, a Resident Evil film needs to be set in Raccoon City, in the early part of Raccoon City, and then watch the outbreak start to flourish. Watch the mercenaries come in. One of the most iconic scenes in Resident Evil 3, the original, is the fucking mercenaries coming in.
Yeah.
And take this, die, iconic shit. Yeah. So, but they have to be closer to the source material.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know who the problem. The characters are so good over time. Like even Barry, like I love Barry Burton. Even Barry, now that Revelations 2 came out and you find out about his daughters and like more backstory on his relationship with his family, like who's the focal point of this show? Like I know there'd be multiple, they can do that with Game of Thrones. They can do that with Resident Evil, but like who'd be the first character they showed on screen? Would it be Chris? Would it be Jill? I'd be happy with Jill, but that's the thing. Because the opening scene, whoever's on screen is your, you know what I mean, for that episode.
And the person's got to take the ball with them and run with it.
Yeah, that's a hard choice.
I think, like you said, Andy, I think Brian Irons chopping bits up just instantly just get people hooked and curious. Like, what's he doing that for? And all his taxidermy weird stuff and everything.
Yeah, he's on the phone.
Yeah, and he'd say, "What do you mean the man should? Well, cover it all up, destroy the evidence." Then immediately you've got that curiosity, haven't you? I think so. I think you should start off with that, just padding like a huge, body part of meat or whatever, and then just pan out from that, like just showing him. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see Jill go to the gym, like in the 90s, maybe listen to Third Eye Blind or something, punching a punching bag, and Chris punching boulders out in his backyard, working out. Like I want to get invested with these characters before everything hits. Now, I will say this, out of all the zombies that I've ever seen on anything ever, my favorite zombie of all time was from Welcome to Raccoon City. I know that it's not a perfect movie, and I know a lot of people hate it because of how they did Leon. I think there's a redemption arc that could be in a second movie if we get one, but their depiction of zombies is terrifying because they're like falling apart. They're losing their minds, and they're all gathering at RPD in a George Romero way, because that's where they go for safety. This is where, okay, I'm going to go to the police because I'm in trouble, and they're all gathering there because there's danger. I'm in danger. I need to go to the police, and that's why they're gathering there. That's like Dawn of the Dead.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're right. That actually makes total sense.
Is it that woman at the diner who we see at the gate, and it wasn't the flesh falling off her face? And did she still have like a tiny bit of humanity in her, like when she said "help me" or something, or trying to or something?
That's scary.
That was real good when the flesh was coming off and stuff.
And the mansion scene with Chris, him and Richard, oh my God, I would watch that on repeat.
Yeah.
But
I did mention this. I mentioned that in my initial review, actually, where they meet the first zombie and they're so like, they're in this state of like shock when they sit and they're like, what do we even do? Like that helplessness. They're just like, what is this? This person is eating somebody else. What do I do? I think Robbie Amell, if they are going to bring Chris back, Robbie Amell was definitely a great young Chris.
Oh,
I'd like to
I think he was the best character on there, the best one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be okay if we got another adaptation of Resident Evil. I know that it's half of it is bioweapons. I would be okay if it was just zombies in the first bit, and then we got more things introduced. Maybe at the end we see like a tyrant or something. I know that the remake of the games had no spiders, which was a shocker. But I would be okay if it was just zombies for the first bit and then more later on, because zombies they're kind of like the entryway for this kind of stuff now. But I don't know. It's gonna. I think honestly, it's gonna be more welcomed if they do it right now that The Last of Us is out. But I think it may be harder for them to follow the footsteps of this. You know, like regardless of what people think of The Walking Dead or whatever, or of this, The Last of Us is going to be like the comparison point for everything henceforth for video game adaptations.
I think it's actually set the benchmark in it. I think that even after that first episode, it's pretty flawless. I think it's absolutely.
And there's like 9.7, I think, is the average review for everywhere for the entire season.
Yeah. Oh, really? Not just for the okay.
Not just for the first episode.
Because I always get concerned when critics review shit first and put it at a really good score. I think, this isn't going to be that good because, like, I don't know. So some just don't sit well with me. But when I did watch it, I was like, that they was actually right. It's surprisingly good.
Yeah, you know what? I think we can all safely say it as fans. If they would just outsource to the fans on Resident Evil, they would have a much easier time. They've taken too far on creative liberties, trying to make it their own when the game would have worked. And we've got close with Welcome to Raccoon City, but I don't think after the Netflix series, I don't think we'll see anything that's joking around anymore, because I think they're going to lose patience with their fans if they don't get it right the next time.
I feel like they know they've got to get their act together now. I think. I bet they're kind of like blown away seeing this and the reaction to this.
Even memes of like, why can't you do this? Like to Resident Evil, comparing it to The Last of Us. Why can't you do this?
Halsey, you posted one, didn't you?
You know what? I posted about 2 likes on it or something, and it got like over 400 likes thing and loads of retweets. Because my phone just kept pinging. I was on shift, I was at home, and it just kept pinging and pinging. Everyone kept liking it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what have I done? And
yeah, it's if it makes it to meme culture with thousands of likes, that's a statement.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Did you see JJ posted about I can't remember what the account was, but it was someone who apologies, it's an Instagram account, and he has like figures, and he had a zombie vomiting. And even, did you see Charlie Kraslavsky's comment? He said, he must have seen the Netflix show. And then JJ's like, Charlie swinging hands. I was like, even Charlie as well. Chris,
the original Chris Redfield does not like the Ari adaptation.
Yeah.
It was glorious.
Wow. Glorious. Yeah, I thought it was crazy.
Indeed. So, final thoughts as we close this stream down. If we could go to Igor first. Final thoughts on Last of Us, and are you name your anticipation for episode 2?
Episode 2, I think we're gonna just see a little bit more of the stages of infection. I think we'll see a bloater. I don't know if we'll see Tess's death. but that's already been talked about in the trailer, shown in the trailer that, which is surprisingly off topic. I know we're trying to wrap up, but the fact that they were a thing made me so happy because they're not really a thing in the game. It's kind of hinted at. They cuddled in bed. They cuddled in the bed on the episode. So I'm wondering how her loss is going to be shown on Joel this time because he's been so cold,
Well, yeah, actually, that is, but it didn't really appear like I'm not like a sex guru or anything, but like it didn't really appear to be like a sexual cuddle. It just appeared to be like we're in this together type cuddle. We're in this shit soup of life together. I'm gonna.
It's infinitely more than what we've seen in the game.
Yeah.
Sex guru. That's
do not clip that. And yourself, Holster?
Yeah, I feel very, I'd say, comfortable after the first episode. I feel so comfortable and optimistic about the whole series. I just really feel it's in good hands, and I just think they'll have to absolutely, be completely careless to screw this up. I think they've, the first episode, they've absolutely just laid the foundations, and I think, the pacing of it was good. I feel like they showed enough. I know it's a long episode, but still, I don't think, like you said, there was any filler. I think it's going to be awesome. So the next episode, I'm hoping for obviously just a bit more, character, like backstory, like development and stuff, character building, and hopefully some clicker footage. I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, of course. It's definitely going to be.
Yeah, I did think. I assumed that him and Tess were a thing because I actually quite. I know obviously she gets into bed from anyway, but I think when he's like blowing his lid about that battery, and then I quite liked how she like not completely de-escalate, but she calmed him down. She just said, "Look, if you're going to blow up, like he's going to run. What you need to take a breath. You need to calm. We'll go sort this." And then you just kind of went, "Okay." So that, I thought it was really cool how. You'd listen to your missus, wouldn't you? If she went like that, just listen a minute, calm, take a breath. So I was kind of thought maybe they are together, but because is she the only one that can kind of calm him down? But like you say, it could be because not being awful. It might be because all they've got is each other. Maybe It's kind of all they've got. So, but totally can't wait to jump into the next episode.
I know, it just sucks. It's at 2 a.m. I'm gonna have to wait until tomorrow night. But I'm hoping it's and as much as I'm enjoying it, I'm really hoping it's not as long as this one because that was an hour and 20 minutes. I really wish, really hope it's like an hour long.
Movie length, isn't it? That's actually crazy.
Agreed. Well, thank you both for joining us. I appreciate this was a bit impromptu, shall we say, but I'm grateful that we've got a couple of Last of Us fans comparing it to Last of Us and Resident Evil fans, and that we can kind of take this to pieces and really understand what it means to adapt something that obviously people hold in high regard, and it's so happy to see it adapted so well on the little screen here. So thank you guys for providing your analysis today. It's appreciated.
Always
thank you so much for asking me on here. I'm really honoured to be here. Thank you, Andy. And awesome to meet you as well. Awesome to have a discussion.
Likewise.
Indeed. And just as we're wrapping up here, Igor, if you could just tell us where you're normally at, where you stream, that sort of thing, what sort of content you do, that'd be appreciated.
I'm live every night on Facebook and Twitch and TikTok. I do 2 streams a night, 2 hours of single player content on Facebook, and then I play multiplayer related like Dead by Daylight until the early hours of the morning here on Twitch and TikTok. So same name everywhere, Igor's Lair. You can find me on all the Twitch people here can find me on Twitch. So you guys want to check me out.
Agreed. Are you going live today?
Yes, hopefully, yes.
Cool. And yourself, Holster?
So you can find me over on YouTube. My channel is Holster TV, so I do live streams of primarily survival horror games, very heavily Resident Evil related, and other horror games. I sometimes throw in some miscellaneous fun ones in there as well. And I sometimes do a pickups video as well, because I'm a game collector, so you'll see lots of horror pickups on those videos as well.
Oh, glorious. And of course, Andy Biohazard here. Residents of Evil, Biohazard, Declassified, all that good stuff. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to everybody in the chat who's popped along. We're going to be putting this VOD on my Biohazard Declassified YouTube account, and I'm going to go live after this stream in about sort of 20 minutes, half hour with The Last of Us. It's a bit of a hype stream for episode 2. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again. Subscribe to whatever platform you're watching this on. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you very soon with some more survival horror and Resident Evil content. So take it easy.